It was late one Friday night when Lily decided to check Snap Map, something she often did to see where her friends were hanging out. Her best friend, Sarah, had been acting distant all week, so Lily decided to see where she was. As she scrolled through the map, she spotted Sarah's icon in a location she didn't recognize, deep in the woods outside of town. Curious, Lily tapped on Sarah's icon, but it didn't show the usual "Snap me" message. Instead, it was a strange, cryptic message that said, "Help me, Lily. He's here." Lily's heart began to race. What did that mean? Sarah had never sent anything like this before. Lily immediately tried to message Sarah, but there was no reply. Panic started to set in. She tried calling Sarah's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Something wasn't right. She knew Sarah had been at a party earlier, but the woods? Lily had heard rumors about those woods, stories of people getting lost, disappearing without a trace. Without thinking, Lily grabbed her jacket and drove out to the location on the map. The road was dark, and the trees seemed to stretch on forever. The further she drove, the more the atmosphere felt wrong. The air was heavy, and the silence was deafening. She pulled up to the spot where Sarah's icon had been, but there was no sign of her. Lily felt a chill run down her spine. She checked the Snap Map again, but this time Sarah's icon had disappeared. In its place was an unfamiliar icon, one that Lily couldn't identify. It was moving, circling in the woods around her. She tried to make sense of it, but her heart was pounding too hard. That's when she heard it. A rustling from behind her. She spun around, but there was nothing there. Just the trees, dark and still. Lily took a deep breath and turned back to her phone, but the unfamiliar icon had moved closer to her, now only a few feet away. She turned around again and froze. A figure stood just behind her, tall, with a twisted smile. She had never seen him before. His eyes gleamed, reflecting the light of her phone. But then, as quickly as he appeared, he was gone. And just like that, Sarah's name popped up on the map again. Lily rushed back to her car, shaking. When she got home, she received a Snapchat notification from Sarah. The message read, "I'm so sorry. It wasn't me." The screen went black, and Lily never saw Sarah again. When Mark got a notification on Snapchat from his ex-girlfriend, Emily, he didn't think much of it. They hadn't spoken in months, but she was still on his Snap. He opened the notification and saw a blurry image, just a dark figure in the distance. It was hard to make out the details, but it was unmistakably Emily standing in the middle of the street. The caption read, "I didn't want you to see this." Mark stared at the screen, confused. He was certain Emily had moved away to another city, and she certainly wouldn't be near his neighborhood. He quickly checked Snap Map and saw that Emily's icon was glowing red, unusually so. He tapped on the location, and to his horror, the map zoomed in on a street not far from his apartment. Mark's fingers trembled as he texted Emily. "Are you here?" he typed. But no response came. He glanced back at the blurry image she had sent. Something about it unsettled him. Why was it so dark? And why hadn't Emily responded to any of his texts? He thought about calling her, but before he could, another snap came through. This time, the picture was clearer, Emily, standing next to a streetlight, her face twisted in terror. The message below said, "Help me, Mark. Please." It didn't make sense. She had moved months ago, and they had broken up before that. Mark quickly opened Snap Map again. Emily's icon was still there, but now it was moving, slowly approaching the very spot where he lived. He watched, helpless, as it came closer and closer. With shaking hands, Mark grabbed his jacket and rushed out the door. The streets were empty, and the air was cold. Mark walked faster, feeling like he was being drawn towards something he couldn't explain. He finally arrived at the spot where Emily's icon had last been. But all he found was an empty street and a chill that made the hairs on his neck stand up. Just as he turned to leave, his phone buzzed. Emily's name flashed on the screen. But when he opened the snap, it wasn't her. It was a dark, shadowy figure with hollow eyes, standing in the exact spot Emily had been in the photo. The message read, "You shouldn't have come." Ben had always been careful about who he added on Snapchat, but one night, something strange happened. He received a friend request from a username he didn't recognize. The name was just a jumble of letters and numbers. His curiosity got the better of him, so he accepted it. What could go wrong? At first, there were no strange interactions. The new friend didn't message him, but Ben noticed that their icon on the Snap map was always right around him, often, a little too close for comfort. He shrugged it off, assuming it was just coincidence. But then, the messages started coming. The first message was simple, "I'm watching you." Ben thought it was some kind of joke, maybe a friend messing with him. He ignored it. But then the messages kept coming. "I see where you are. I know what you're doing." It was getting creepy, and Ben started to feel a sinking feeling in his stomach. Ben checked the Snap map again. The icon was moving closer to him. In fact, it was now right outside his house. His heart skipped a beat. He quickly checked his phone again. "Who is this?" he typed. There was no response, but the map didn't lie. The icon was now moving around his block, tracing circles around his street. Ben went outside, peering through his windows, but saw nothing. Just the shadows of the night. He turned to check his Snap map one more time, but the icon had vanished. It wasn't on the map anymore. Frantically, he checked his friend list, but there was no trace of the strange user. It was as if they had never existed. He logged out of Snapchat, but when he logged back in the next day, the account was back. This time, the message was even worse, "I'm in your house. Turn around." Ben froze. He didn't turn around. He grabbed his phone and ran to the front door. The map was still flashing. The unknown user's icon was now in the exact same location as his own. And it was right behind him.